Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and we have a special guest. I know everyone always says special guest with everybody, but we've got Caroline Ferguson, and I pronounced that right?
You
Ferguson?
did. Good job.
Caroline Ferguson, welcome. Caroline is in the house.
Thank you,
And,
Chris. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
and Caroline did not give me a bio, but we said, we can be real chill and laid back about it. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and get the audience familiar with who you are and what you're doing and maybe how you got to where you are now. In however long you want to take to explain it, go ahead, feel free.
Sweet. Love it. First off, thank you, Chris, for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm super excited to be here and to share my story and to bring whatever value I can to your community. I love it. I'm all about community. And I think
Community's
that
huge.
it's so big, right? Like relationships, period. Like there's not even an end to that sentence because it's literally just relationships. Like that's all it's about. At the end of the
There's
day, if you
so
don't have those,
much.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's the glue for literally everything. So I am obsessive compulsive when it comes to building community, being a part of community, but also bringing value to communities. So I hope this brings value. So who am I? So my name is Caroline Ferguson. Chris got it right. Though I have been dubbed Carolyn my whole life, even though it is Caroline, I will respond to either. I am 23 years old, live in Houston, Texas, not originally from here, but I've been here the absolute longest. I am a serial entrepreneur by heart. Whether that is a curse or a blessing, I have yet to discern. I don't really know yet. But I do know that I am stupid passionate about ideation to execution and taking something that is only it only exists in the air and it's not real, and then creating it and then taking it to market. I'm obsessed with that process. And I didn't know what it was called for a really long time. And it really wasn't until I was in college. So I went to school at the University of Houston, Go Cougs, and I'm a recent graduate from the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, which was recently ranked.
Congrats. It's a great
Yeah,
school. And
thank
I know that you
you.
guys got like ranked number one entrepreneurship degree or something, right?
Yes, yes, dude. We are
That's awesome.
officially number one in the United States for the best undergraduate entrepreneurship program in the US. So
That's
it's
pretty
really
impressive.
exciting.
And it's definitely, I joke with friends who have graduated from there that it's a great way to make sure you have to become an entrepreneur because try showing that on your resume at a job, right? Like they're like, wait, you
Right?
studied entrepreneurship? You don't want to stick around here for very long, do you?
Right. And I heard somebody once compare it to getting a degree in soccer. They're like, okay, so like what did you actually study though? They're like, it was
Yeah.
a year and a half crash course of what exactly? And you
Because
kind of
there's so many different things that you got to learn, right?
it's so much. It's literally like the program does a really good job at breaking up, the separation between head and heart, right? And it's like, what's our purpose? What sets our soul on fire? But then when push comes to shove and like we have to go and like be
Be
actionable,
scrappy and take action.
it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell do you do? And how do you do it?
It's
And
hard to
like,
teach that part. You kind of have to figure that out trial by fire.
exactly, exactly. I remember my so during my final semester within the entrepreneurship program, we took all the students are put into teams and are given, an IP and intellectual property from the university or NASA. We work with NASA, which is really cool. And my team's intellectual property that we were building a business around and ultimately attempting to take to market was, I kid you not, Chris, this is how silly this sounds, a mosquito zapping drone.
That's cool. We
Yo,
need
try,
that in Houston.
oh, you do. We do. But try to build a business around a mosquito
Zapping
zapping
drone.
drone. Like, if you can do that, if you can somehow figure out like an appropriate and safe and compelling marketing strategy around that and then actually raise money to back it, then I think the program did what it set out to do. And that is ideation execution. Take a concept, take a thing that
Bring it to market.
exactly, and just go with it. So, but yeah, I didn't really understand what this kind of spirit of entrepreneurship was until I got to the University of Houston and got accepted into the Wolf Center and really like honed in on, no, there's like a community around this. This is a physical thing. Entrepreneurship isn't just a bunch of crazy loons, which sometimes we get a bad rap, but like it's not just a bunch of crazy people who have a bunch of ideas and are all talk. Like there is a niche community of people who actually follow through on their ideas and
Yeah.
concepts and go and try and create stuff. And like, those are the people I want to be around.
And the
Like,
people who are obsessed and have done this for years and they stick with it, right? They're
yes,
just passionate about it. And I think it's something that so many people, it's like a dormant gene that you don't realize is there until you unlock it. And especially if you've gone and you've worked somewhere else and you've had your
yeah,
creativity suppressed, now when you can actually be like, I want to make this logo and I want it to look like this, it's so fun to create and have that decision making power that you don't get at a job. You don't get to change a Fortune 500 company's logo just on day
just guys.
one, but you can do that with your own on like Canva or hire someone on freelancer.com or whatever,
Right.
right?
Yeah, Canva's
Fun.
mind blowing, by the way. Like, Canva
Yeah,
sponsor this podcast, maybe, but
for
like,
real. I'd like to interview
Canva,
them too. If they,
right?
Canva, if
Like,
you're listening.
get on this, get on Chris's podcast. But seriously, like, Canva's mind blowing. Get on there and in 40 seconds make a logo,
It's
and then in
amazing.
2 minutes make a slide deck. Like,
Seriously. And even on the free version, like so many softwares in today's day and age, I continue to be impressed. Like Calendly, MailChimp, Canva, you get so much value off the free version alone. Airtable, that's another one that I use. Like
mm-hmm.
shout out to, I'll interview all the CEOs of all these
Like, come on,
companies if
y'all.
y'all are interested.
Come on, Chris has got it. We're
Nike,
talking about you. Let's go.
Amazon. Okay, I started to get bigger and bigger. Jeff Bezos, you're on my vision board. Come on through.
Coca-Cola, are you listening? Like, you ready for this?
Yeah, come on. Gary V. Let's
Right?
go.
All right, come on, let's go. Come on, now it's out there.
So
Great.
yeah, sorry to take a tangent on your story, but okay. So the entrepreneurship, that is when you started to explore it, when you got accepted to the Wolf Center.
Yep, that's kind of when I started to explore it. And then because I've always had like, for me, entrepreneurship is very intentional. It's very, very, very intentional. And the capacities and the roles that I serve within being an entrepreneur don't always look like being a business owner, which sounds like what? But I've had to kind of grow into that mindset. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was a student, I launched my own company, and it was a passion project that transformed itself into a small business, and it's one that I'm super, super, super grateful for, and it's taught me so much, and is still very much being developed, but is a functioning business and like serves people. And that business is called Grateful and Company, and Grateful and Company was very intentional because it was born out of a personal tragedy that I went through. So to be able to channel entrepreneurship in that way, to take something that was like awful and sad and hard and like dramatically altered the trajectory of my life, and to create something positive through that, and to be able to impact people powerfully and positively because of entrepreneurship post this tragedy, has been like, whoa, for me. Love that.
Yeah.
And so Grateful and Company, that's where it came from. So like a quick 15 seconds on what that company does. Like, we were built with one goal, and that goal is to dramatically recreate this very, very real need and awareness for physical gratitude and how powerful it is, and to do so with the intention of ending suicide. So we're a company on mission to promote physical gratitude, but to also raise money for suicide prevention. And then, so started that, loved it, still love it, and am very passionate about this kind of heartthrob of mine, and that is to take a tragedy I went through and build something meaningful because of it. But also on the flip of that, like, I'm also involved in an industry that I never thought I'd be a part of. Honestly, Chris, I had no idea that I'd be in the multifamily world.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, and if you're listening to this and you came to this podcast through LinkedIn, like, the Caroline you know on LinkedIn only talks about apartments and water conservation and like utility billing and like that world. And that is so different than Grateful and Company's mission. And it's
Right.
crazy to think about, but that's the power of entrepreneurship, right? Like, you don't have to just be in one little realm. You get to do, like, you have an idea, boom, try it. You got something you want to just go and pursue, boom, pursue it. And so within the multifamily world, I work with my mentor and a dear, dear, dear friend of mine, and help him run his water conservation and utility billing company for the multifamily world. And you might be thinking, well, that sounds boring. Sure. If you're not an entrepreneur, right? Like, if you're not looking at it from the perspective of, being very intentional about problem solving, creating new solutions, building new, marketing strategies and branding, what's the word, like kind of branding angles, and you're not involved in the storytelling and the just,
Right. Because you can be so creative with every aspect of it. I mean,
yeah,
it's a blessing and a curse, kind of like you mentioned earlier, the serial entrepreneurship, because it's an endless stream of ideas, even within one single company or business that you're working on. Like, in any given day when I wake up, for example, it's like, do I want to create a new marketing video? Do I want to
yeah,
just make another podcast right now? Should I reach out to clients? Should I send thank you cards? Like, it's no one's telling you what to do, which is fun sometimes, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, how do I prioritize? How do I
right.
focus?
Right. And discipline, right? Like, my motto has
Yeah,
become discipline. It is such a privilege to be an entrepreneur. And it is also such a privilege to be able to be an entrepreneur for an entrepreneur and to work within an
right.
entrepreneurial role within an already established company. And then to be a part of, startups that follow said parent company, which is kind of this amazing role that I've been blessed with, to work for and to have the security of an established brand, but to do crazy cool new things with it and to launch new businesses underneath it. But to be an entrepreneur for an entrepreneur, as well as just an independent entrepreneur, such a privilege, such a privilege. And
That's
it is,
awesome.
you know what I'm saying? Like, but discipline. Like, discipline is the key here. I'm so pumped. We also got to get HubSpot to sponsor this, because I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
what, we onboarded a new CRM for our company a couple weeks ago, and it's been game changing to be able to see, like,
Who's
just,
opening your emails and who's reading and stuff.
yo, it's whack. It's crazy. I'm like, I didn't even know I had access to this kind of data.
I know.
It's wild, and I can prioritize, like, who should I be talking to today? Who should I be talking to
Yeah.
tomorrow? Who's clicking and scrolling on my website? How
That's
many?
one that I've heard about and I still haven't really utilized it yet. I was talking to another real estate agent in my office. He does like 20 million in volume a year. I know
Well,
several top producing agents that they're doing really well. They're in the luxury market. They've
yeah,
worked their way up. And he was saying his biggest problem is right now he's trying to cut costs on things that he signs up for every program, every software, everything sounds great. And then if you don't actually learn how to utilize them properly, or you never actually log in, and then you're
yeah,
paying 6 months for like 5 programs that you're not using. I was laughing kind of because I'm like, dude, you made 600 or 700 grand last year. Like, what are you spending, 1,000 a month, maybe
you're
2,000?
good.
You're fine. But at the same time, I understand that, the money you take home at the end of the day, it's all a balance of the expenses
Mhm.
along with the income. So, I mean, if your expenses and your I guess your fixed expenses, if you're paying recurring software costs,
Yeah.
you should probably trim down some of those if you're not using them. So, but like you said, the potential out there, like prioritizing based on who's actually engaging with your content, that's stuff that you didn't have visibility to before. If you just sent a regular email and you had no idea, did they read it? And now you can see if they read it 3 times and shared it with somebody, and you're like, this person is a potential customer, or they really love our
Exactly.
stuff.
Exactly. One of the things I'm super excited about this year, so to just provide some perspective on what Southwest Utility Solutions has been and what we will be by the end of this year. So, Southwest Utility Solutions by itself it was born out of one company 7 years ago. It's
Mhm.
kind of maintained its brand its presence as, like, a utility billing company and a water conservation company for the multifamily world in the state of Texas. Well, on February 1st, we launch our first national product, and that's been a
Wow.
long time coming, which is super exciting. It's another utility billing company. And then at the end of this year, we launch where I launch our multifamily marketing company. We're building a marketing company for the multifamily world. And I think the biggest lesson that I've learned thus far in all of the planning for the company that we launch next Saturday and the company that I'm still developing and preparing for launch, and really just preparing product scope and making sure that I'm addressing what the market actually wants, that for that company to launch in Q4 of this year. I think the biggest takeaway for me, and something that I think could bring this audience a lot of value, is that, you know, you, one, really need to be aware of the problem you're solving. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Make sure you're solving a tangible and physical problem with whatever you bring to the market. And then also, to speak kind of more specifically about this marketing company that we're launching, to go back on the data that we now have access to and can track and can see, that can help us, determine how do we have more intentional conversations with our prospects? How do we better understand how to serve our current clients, because we can see what their rate of engagement is with our correspondents, right? Like, how can I engage with people in the industry that maybe will never be clients of mine, but to be an industry expert for them, the amount of credibility that's going to provide to my brand and to me, astounding. The marketing company that Andrew and I will launch this year, we were not planning on launching. It was not, Andrew and I am so blessed by my relationship with Andrew and his family, because Andrew and I both are very much serial entrepreneurs and knew that we wanted to continue building businesses together after I graduated from college. But we did not understand at the time, and still are growing into it, the power of community. And that is really where this marketing company is coming from, because the digital reach that we are capable of online is wild.
Yeah. And so scalable.
Yes.
I'm kicking myself for not starting sooner, because now I'm posting content all the time. I just got here from a networking event before we started talking, and
Yeah.
I ran into a guy who I used to work with at an oil and gas company. He'd been there for 10 years. He just got let go after new leadership came in after 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And we hadn't seen each other since I worked at the location he was at / quit.
Yeah.
I probably saw him last in 2015, 2016, maybe.
Wow.
And when I saw him today, he's like, well, Chris, I know everything you're up to. And I was like, yeah, because I'm posting 2-3 times a week, sometimes 2-3 times a day. And that message, like while we're talking right now, someone's scrolling on LinkedIn, someone's on YouTube, someone's listening to my podcast somewhere in the world. And so I don't have to be everywhere at once. Well, I guess I kind of am in a way, because the
Right.
content, once you put it out there, it starts to take on a life of its own.
Absolutely. And you practice what you preach here, and I can see it. I mean, like, I see you all over social media, but
You too. I see what you're up to in your late nights at the office and all that.
so dorky, right? But I'm about it. I'm like, accountability.
Yeah. I show people, I'm like, look, I'm reading a book here at 6 a.m. I don't even have a real job. I wake myself up.
But I'm here and I'm showing up.
I'm waking up earlier than some of my friends who have real jobs and
Right?
bosses.
Right? It's like, and I'm in my home office. Granted,
Yes.
I didn't put on real clothes, but I'm in my office and I am showing up, and I'm being intentional about when I'm waking up. But
Right.
you're using, there is something to be said for using lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different platforms too. I think,
Absolutely.
audio like this, like we're recording this, and the medium that somebody will watch this on, whether it be like YouTube, or if maybe it's, posted natively to LinkedIn, wherever you can watch the video content, but also you're hitting a completely different market of people by just offering it on Apple iTunes or whatever, just as a podcast, or on Spotify.
Yeah. Because people can pick how they want to listen to the content and consume it.
It's super powerful. And to be aware that people have preferences, and to know that if we are ignorant to that, and just talk about our brands and our companies and ourselves on one of those mediums, we're limiting ourselves so much.
Yes, I never posted on LinkedIn until this year. I'm so upset at myself.
Well, good for you for starting.
Thank you, because I was so quiet for so long, and I shared this on a recent podcast episode, because secretly I kind of wanted to have an out if this didn't work out, if I wasn't
Exactly.
successful in real estate. I didn't want people on LinkedIn to know all the things that I did in case I wanted to get a job. And then it wasn't until, I keep hearing Tony Robbins, burn the boats, go all in. You have to decide. You
Yeah.
can't be like 1 foot in. And so I went all in and I was just like, look, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to share content every day. And now people like the guy I just met at the networking event. He knows what I do. Maybe he wants to buy a house or maybe he wants to sell a house this
Yeah.
year. And I'm going to be the guy top of mind versus the 10 realtors he's probably friends with on Facebook who don't post anything on LinkedIn.
Exactly right. Exactly right. It's funny. I have, it's tricky for your hobby to be entrepreneurship, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like in my free time, I'm attempting to start a business. I think last year I tried to build 7 startups at once. And that was really
Wow.
scary and not super healthy, but
Yeah, because it never ends. You're like, you
that's
got so
it.
many ideas that you have to hold yourself back from doing everything.
It's totally right. And like I find myself, so my kind of group of people, or the people that are so what's the word, just they're really good at pouring into me and mentoring me and loving me and supporting me.
Yeah.
And likewise, it's a very they're fluid relationships, and so I'm able to give the same back to them. But I have a tendency of, when my friends or my colleagues are like, hey, I want to try this new thing, I'm like, cool, I'm totally in. How can I support you and how can I help you? And recently that has taken form in talking to people about social media and talking to people about LinkedIn and the power of it, and even paid advertising on LinkedIn, which is hilarious because yet again those conversations were happening before we were even considering launching this marketing company. But just goes to show, like,
Yeah.
something you love, something fruitful will come of it. But anyway, what I find myself having the same conversation over and over and over again, and that is like, why do I need to be online? I'm old school. Like, these people that I sell to, you don't understand, like, they're not on Facebook, they're not really
Hmm.
on LinkedIn. And and my response is consistently, to be online in today's and age proves you're alive. If you are not online, or
Yes.
you have some sort of digital presence, you will be dead in the next 5 years. You just will. Like,
I'm thinking of one engineering friend I know. He
yeah,
freaking sent me an evite to his birthday party. I was like, dude, make a Facebook group. He's like, I don't have Facebook. I don't do social media. And I'm like,
you got to get on Facebook.
no one's
You got
gonna
to do
know
it.
you exist. I mean, I guess he has a good engineering job. He's gonna work there forever and make a steady 6 figures and retire.
Yeah.
But if he ever tried to start a company or anything, like he wouldn't even know what to do. Like, how do you do an Instagram story if you've never done one, and then create a Twitter account and then a LinkedIn, and then you'd be so overwhelmed if you're not practicing right now with your personal accounts.
Exactly. And think about where the market is, the market that's 20 years behind us, right? All those kids, all those buyers in the next 30 years,
They're on
they
other platforms too.
they're glued here. And they're glued, if they've
Yes.
got laptops, they're glued to their laptops. But like, that's where the attention is. I used to listen to, and I can praise Gary Vee in this sense, because he is not upset when he loses people who engage with his content, because he always says, it's doing what I want it to do. Like, you take the nugget of knowledge that I shared with
And
you
you
in,
apply it.
right? And then if you leave, it hopefully it means you're being actionable, and I'm okay with that. So I when I was more actively engaged in his content, when I was kind of just trying to figure stuff out, um, and kind of just going through the motions, he said, and it stuck with me. He's like, you have to go where the attention is. It doesn't matter what your personal bias is. It doesn't matter what you grew up knowing. It doesn't matter what you learned if you have a marketing degree from the best university in the country. You have to go where the attention is. And if the attention is here, you have to go
That's where
here.
you have to go.
Exactly. Like, the attention might not be here anymore. If it's here, you have to go here. And if you don't, you're missing
Yeah.
out on your audience.
And those who are listening as opposed to watching the video on YouTube, she was holding a phone and then she picked up some paper. I love how visual that was because it's like the attention is where the phone is, the technology, that's always in our pocket. Wherever you go, less and less people are doing papers and printouts, and even like real estate. I see the differences. I've gone to networking events where, or even like educational events where there's
Yeah.
like everyone, 90% of the agents in the room are white haired. They don't have an Instagram. Some of them barely have Facebook, and they just like,
Mhm.
they're the kind of people who post the same profile picture 5 times because they don't realize that like they already posted it. My mom's guilty of this. I always give her crap.
I
But it's
love
just
that.
like, oh my gosh, face palm. Like, you guys have no idea. You're missing out on opportunities. And even
Yeah.
whenever they do, like the way I stand out differently, for example, in the realtor investor side, is that I don't post the corny stuff, and I kind of poke fun at it. I know that like, oh, should I do my arms crossed in my business card picture, or should I do like the hand on the chair?
Love
And
that.
yeah, I just talk crap about it, and it's just funny because I'm addressing the elephant in the room of like, oh, everyone's got the arm crossed picture, and they're like trying to get their picture on your shopping cart at the grocery store. And I want to be more of that Gary Vee approach of like spitting knowledge, adding value, pulling people
Yes.
to me who resonate with my message, and then are like, Chris, you're down to earth, you're honest, you tell it like it is. I want to work with you, right?
Hmm.
And like you
Absolutely.
said, attention is currency. That's another thing Gary Vee says. That's true. You mean you can pay for Facebook ads, but if you don't have people's attention, if you're not interesting to them and you don't add true value, then you can boost every single ad possible, and it's not going to make anyone take action unless you tug at their emotions.
Exactly right. Include in well, I have a tendency of redoing my signature line in my email like every day because
Me
I'm
too.
anal in that
I'm
way.
tweaking it a little bit.
Like always, I'm like, do we want to use this Calendly link? Do we want to use this
Do I
quote?
want to say grab coffee with me, or do I want to direct them to my link tree?
Right. It's like, do you like lunch? Are you into caffeine? Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but I have one thing I've been consistent with is including a phrase that I stand by with everything in me when it comes to serving somebody in a professional capacity, and that is bring value or bring nothing at all. Bring
that's
value
awesome.
or bring nothing at all. Like, do not even bother coming into my office. Do not even bother, like, honestly, like, do not even bother. Don't even do anything. Like, truly, don't interact with me. Please put my computer on do not.
Yeah, no worries. I hear all the updates going on in
Do
the
you?
background.
And I'm like, what is going on right now? Let me change focus assist. That is so
My
annoying.
phone does that sometimes. Like if I have it connected to the computer and the connection's kind of loose and it keeps like connecting, I don't know. It makes different noises for different things, and I can never remember if it's an update or the
It's so
connection's
annoying.
bad.
I'm like,
Yeah,
computer, do you not know that I'm talking to Chris?
I
Like,
know.
shut
Hey,
up.
that's better than I guess someone walking in or your dog barking.
Like,
Luckily,
hey.
the way the Zoom video records, it records on two separate tracks, so I can always mute one and then keep the other going and
Oh, that's
roll
good.
with the punches.
That's good. Okay.
I
I think
really
we're
love
good.
that. So bring value or bring nothing at all. I got a
Bring
good
value.
example of that too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so this happened today. I was sitting, got a call, and me being in real estate, I answer every phone call. Or if you're in sales in general, or you've got opportunities and you've got to basically answer the phone, even though it's probably 90% of the time spam.
Yeah.
And it was so and so, like, hey, I met you at an event in this area, recently. She didn't even really know where we met. She just had my card probably, and along with a stack of cards from some event. And I go
Uh-huh.
to like 3 a week, so I was like, what event was it? She couldn't even name it. She didn't remember.
Hmm.
And so she was just like, yeah, you just seem like you're a really interesting person and you really have it together. I could tell she was just using some line that she uses for everybody.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, so how can I help you? Like, what's up? Is this a lead?
Yeah.
Is this someone who's interested in working with me? And then she proceeds to be like, yeah, I think it'd be really great. She did her little pitch of trying to bring me in the office and show you my our finance product. And I'm like, wait, who are you with? And she didn't even give me a name. And she's like, yeah, we should just meet. And I was being polite, right? Like, oh, I'm not really interested. Here's
Yeah.
the pitch. And,
Right.
I don't want to go up to your office like an hour north of where I live
Right.
in the Woodlands, like 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And she tried to like hard sell to really pull me in, like, no, let's just sit down and review. I'm like, look, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste mine. But that's an
Yes.
example of there was no value added there. And not to brag, but here's an example of how you add value. So I went to an event. I got a couple business cards. I connected with people, and I didn't just do the whole like grab business cards and put mine in everyone's hands. I
Yeah.
like to connect with people. Like you said, connection, relationships, those are huge.
Yep.
I'd rather sit down with three people and talk to each person for 10 or 15 minutes and get to really know them instead of talk to 30 people for 10 seconds each who have no idea who I am and they won't care either.
Yeah.
And I connected with this girl. Her sister went to like the all girls school right across from my all boys high
Huh.
school. So I was like, you look familiar. And then she told me her last name and I was like, I know your sister. Awesome.
Whoa.
So small world. So we kind of had some connection and rapport there. And I called her the next day. She works in apartment locating with like one of these big apartment locating houses in Houston that bust
Yeah.
out apartment locating deals every day of the week. And so my value add to her was like, hey, so let's see how we can work together. You probably have clients that may be renewing, or maybe they want to buy a house. If you can refer them to me, I'll do all the work and I'll give you 25% commission just for the
Boom.
referral. And then maybe if I have apartment clients, since you're good at that and I don't really know what apartments to send them to, I just send them your way and we can do it the other way around. And so there was like, boom, I started with value. We spoke for 20 minutes on the phone the next day. It wasn't like a 2-minute pitch of me asking her to come to
Yep.
my office. And now we've got a great connection. I was like showing the numbers. Hey, if we do 10 deals together and 10 people buy a $300,000 house, you're going to make an extra 25 grand this year. It's like
Boom.
22,500 or whatever.
Yeah.
But led with value. What's in it for me? I always wonder a lot for the other person, right? And that's how I do it and I approach things. I try to lead with value. And it's just something that I've learned because I know what I don't like and then I know what I like. So
Yeah.
I've kind of picked pieces of that and I apply it in my own life and business. So I really love what you said there. Bring value or bring nothing at all. Was that it?
That's exactly it. I'm so flabbergasted. This is like well, flabbergasted,
That's a
overwhelmed
funny
with
word.
it's a good word, right?
Like
I'm so
flubber or something, flabbergasted.
sounds like a disease. I have flabbergasted.
Flabbergastritis or something.
Bringing a lot of value here.
Yeah.
I am. Oh, I didn't turn them off. Oh my god,
I'm gonna have to leave this in just because it's so funny.
this is so infuriating. Oh my god.
So
I'm also not a Windows person. Not a Windows
you're
person.
you're a Mac person, Apple.
I am, but
Yeah.
all of our work software is on
Uh,
Windows, and
the
so I'm like,
worst. I have
oh,
Windows, but I'm secretly an Apple fanboy, but then I just got like such a good deal on this PC that I had to get it.
oh, you like
Um,
broke down and did it.
yeah, I just broke down and got the Asus or whatever.
Oh, that's a really good computer, though. The
Yeah,
Asus computers
and
are sick. I have
pro
a
tip,
Surface, and I like it.
yeah, pro tip to the entrepreneurs out there. You can go to Best Buy, go to the scratch and dent or like the unboxed things that were returned. I got like an 11 or $1,200 laptop for 600 bucks.
Sweet.
And then you've got the Best Buy card. It's like free 0% interest financing for a year. So
Best
like the
Buy card is magical.
payments are minimal. Like I already have recouped the cost of this laptop on the first month by doing a deal in real estate. And it's like I kind of need an important, laptop's important.
I kind of need a laptop, but I think
I might need that to do contracts and stuff and
I think I
emails
might
and
need to type at some point and send an
yeah,
email.
or video calls, like anything, right? So wait, you were saying you were flabbergasted
Yes.
before
Okay.
your computer made noises?
I'm so sorry about
It's
that.
okay. It's okay.
I'm flabbergasted by two things, and I will dive into the second one here in a minute. But the first thing I'm flabbergasted by is why people assume on LinkedIn if I connect with you, it means I want to buy from you. If
Yeah, I don't
I
get it.
This is how I handle those situations. If somebody reaches out to me, takes the time to read something on my profile, adds a note when they send me a request, and then I hit connect, and then the next thing I get is an automated bot saying, Caroline, I really think I could revolutionize your marketing processes for 2020. Want to talk
Mhm.
about how we optimize lead
How
generation?
often does that even work? Like it's 0.0001% maybe?
And it's like, even if it did, even if it was the most amazing product in the world and tried and true and it was amazing, I do like, what
It
value have
just
you brought me, right?
yeah,
Nothing about
zero
me.
value. I could show you another one today at 11:15 a.m. I'm looking at my phone because I got a
Yes.
voicemail. 858 was the area code, San Diego, California number. And I was curious. It was 1 minute and 22 seconds. And I know the tricks because I was in the investment real estate world where people don't know this a lot who are outside of this kind of marketing stuff, but you can do voice or ringless voicemail where your phone won't ring, but you'll get a voicemail. And the
Yep.
crazy thing is I can pre-record it on a voice memo or on my microphone here, upload it to the computer, and I can send it to like 10,000 people. Maybe I forget the costs, but it's relatively cheap. I'm pretty sure it's like maybe 2 cents maybe 2 cents each. So I can
Yeah.
send for $200 a voicemail to 10,000 people, which is what this guy probably did. But it was interesting because I went to the URL he mentioned, and it was some like, this is how to get rich and finally achieve financial freedom. And like, listen to the thing here, put on speaker.
Hey, Mark here. Real quick, I know you're busy. I was trying to reach out to you today because I understand that at some point in the past, you were truly interested and motivated in changing your lifestyle by trying to make income online from home. And look, I understand there is a lot of BS out there.
Like this. But
Yeah,
anyways,
like this.
it was like a full minute and 22 seconds. And I listened to the whole thing because I'm always curious. And I actually posted it on my Instagram story where I was like, this is kind of smart, even though like how the conversion rate would be so low. Let me see. I'm fast forwarding through my story here. But yeah, I was like, wow, got a voicemail blast, and a guy directed me to this funnel URL, sales funnel. Kind
Yeah.
of smart, even though it doesn't work on like someone who actually studies this
Knows
stuff.
what's going on. Yeah.
And I said, imagine blasting 100,000 people and having a 1%. I put conversation. That was a typo. I meant conversion. So you have
Mm-hmm.
1,000 people going through that funnel. In the little image on here for those watching the video,
Yeah.
it's like not a badly done funnel, but it says top secret money system allows ordinary folks to make 1,500 to 10,000 plus per week without internet marketing or speaking to anyone. Millions of dollars have been paid to members who have watched our free webinar. The button in the call to action says, yes, please let me in. So that's a way like, okay, how likely is it that some idiot will go through that and
Yeah.
click on the webinar and waste their time watching it?
Right.
There's obviously it must be working. Some people out there might be listening to this, but like even with the LinkedIn thing, that doesn't work.
It's like bringing value, like get to like it goes back to the very first point when we first started talking. Relationships are everything. And if you want to prove
Seriously.
you're alive online, then my God, be a human being. Like
I,
I'm not gonna go right? Like I'm not gonna just walk up to Starbucks, Chris, not know who in the world you are. You just sipping your cappuccino and I walk in with like
a sales
500
pitch.
page, right, it's like a 500-page pitch. I'm like, boom, Chris, buy my product. You need it. You don't know me, but you need it. It's like, get out.
Yes.
Leave.
I've heard it said at an internet marketing conference or digital marketing conference that the example of trying to sell someone right away, even like on the first page of a website,
Yeah.
it's like asking your girlfriend to marry you on the first date, or even before you ask her for the date. You wouldn't do that. You'd have to date the person, get to know them, build up trust,
Yes.
and then however long later you propose, and she hopefully says, or he hopefully says
Hopefully,
yes.
hopefully, so
Hopefully.
my mentor, so I'm big on mentorship, and I've had a mentor in my life who is just an amazing man. He's
How'd you
fantastic.
find that mentor? That's something that a lot of people in the audience are wondering because they know mentors are important, but like, how did you go about finding yours? If you don't mind
Yeah,
sharing.
absolutely. So and since this will be on LinkedIn, he'll probably engage. And if not, I'll tag him in the comments below. But Ken, if you're
Awesome.
listening, this is our story. So Ken professionally coaches and mentors CEOs for a living. So Awais, you had on your podcast a couple episodes back. Awais is actually in one of the mentorship groups I'm a part of with Ken.
Very
So Ken
cool. And he made
coaches
the
him as well.
introduction to us as well.
Yep. So I've known Ken since before being involved with this group of people he mentors, but Awais is in that group with me. Awais with Q Marketing, he's fantastic. Anyway, so
Yes.
Ken used to coach an old boss of mine. When I graduated from high school, I immediately went into an internship with a company who helped students kind of fast track getting into college and streamlined the financial aid process for parents, which is cool, but
Mm-hmm.
like not a fabulous company anymore. Anyway, Ken used to coach the leadership team there. And while I was serving within the internship role for this company, Ken would come in. He was very intentional about meeting every single member of said team and being an active just person, a professional connection, while he served leadership during the time of the month that he came in and coached them. And so Ken, every month that he would come in, he always came and saw me. He would always come to the front desk, ask me how I was doing. What's up, Caroline? Ask me some ethical dilemma question, and just be very intentional about cultivating a relationship with me. That job environment became very toxic very quickly, and things became very bad very fast. And
Yeah, that can happen very quickly. I mean, like, what do they say? One bad apple can spoil the bunch.
it's bad. It's really sad, like really, really, really sad. So had to kind of make a change really quickly. And when you're financially independent at 18 years old and you like live off of the stability that maybe even a crappy job provides, that's terrifying. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll take all the bad stuff. I'll take it because I don't want to be homeless. But it was terrifying. And at that point, kind of Ken's relationship and the business owner's relationship, they'd gone separate ways because this particular business owner was just really, really, really toxic, which is, I don't like to say about anybody, but it was very toxic. And Ken and I never stopped communicating. And he gave me my word. He gave me his word whenever he was serving said company within a mentorship role. And he said, I give you my word, you can always reach out to me for professional advice. And I was like, how cool is that? Like, I don't know anything about the professional world. And this guy who literally does this for a living is willing to offer some nobody like me help should I ever need it. And turns out I did. And
so valuable. That's awesome.
So valuable. And he was honest. He didn't BS me and say, reach out to me if you need it. No. Ken is authentic and sincere. And I did. I got on LinkedIn. I found Ken Proctor. And I was like, hi, Mr. Proctor. My name is Caroline. Could we like maybe get coffee? Yeah. And he was like, let's do it. And I was 18. I had met Ken though. I had been introduced to Ken by old boss because I was engaged with the company before kind of becoming an employee. I'd interacted with the company beforehand, and I met Ken by association when I was 17, actually. So Ken and I, that's when our relationship first kind of started. And then when I left the company is really when it flourished. And Ken, he made a commitment to me that day that we got coffee. He shook my hand and he said, here's what the deal is. I promise to be consistent and to pour into you professionally and give you feedback and advice as you ask. And here's my ask. You have to do the same for somebody someday. It'll never cost you a dime, but you have to be willing to pour into somebody else like this one day, because you will gain a monumental amount of experience, and your wealth of knowledge will only grow based on your experiences and, roles that you throw yourself into and opportunities that you seize. You will have a bank and database of knowledge based on experiences. And there will be somebody who will come to you and will need your help, and they'll need your professional feedback and advice. And you have to give it to them. And shake my hand and tell me you'll do that. I was like, done, Mr. Proctor. So he's been in my life ever since. And he's just absolutely fantastic. Having a mentor is... And now being able to work with another mentor of mine who is also coached by Ken it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I don't even know how we got on the topic of Ken, but
yeah,
he's awesome.
You said we had 2 points or something. The first we just covered, and then the second point, I don't know where we were going with it, but I loved it.
I don't know how Ken got involved with the second point. But
I asked you how you found the mentor, because I think that's really valuable to the audience. Like you can have YouTube mentors, you can read a book, you can have like the virtual mentor, like, oh, Robert Kiyosaki, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, he's my mentor. He doesn't know who I am though. I don't get to ask him questions. I might pay thousands of dollars to go to his seminar, but I heard that half the time he's not even at his own seminars, it's somebody else. So that's different than having a real mentor who will pick up the phone when you call, or you can do a Zoom video. Yes. I love that, how he said you have to pass it on as well in the future. I
It
try to
was,
be as
yeah,
much of a mentor as I can to others, even though sometimes I'm like, look, I tell people to take my advice with a grain of salt because I don't feel qualified to give advice in certain areas because I haven't been successful there. And that's advice that I take too. I'm like, look, I'm not going to listen to my parents about real estate advice because the only house
right.
they've ever bought is the house they lived in for 30 years or whatever. So that's something that people have to learn is to only take advice from people who are qualified to give advice in those certain areas, which obviously it sounds like your mentors are since they're actively teaching other CEOs and stuff like that.
It's been such a fruitful relationship because when you're willing to be coached and coachable and you're open to
Mm-hmm.
feedback and you're willing and you desire personal growth, it will change your life. Because, it's really interesting. My group, we call our groups trusted advisor groups. And this is the group that I'm a part of with OASE. It's the group that Ken chairs, for lack of a better term, through Vistage International. It's like a group for just coaching small business owners and just kind of executives within existing companies.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about during our last meeting, we meet once a month, was, what what our teams and our employees and our community sees of us and how they interpret our actions is not always what our intent is. And to be aware of whether or not we receive feedback positively or we're open to somebody that might be critical of us, that is huge. Even if we don't agree with said feedback, right? Or we don't necessarily think that the critical nature of somebody's opinion of us is really like legit, being open to it and receiving it with an attitude of positivity will
Change your life.
holy cow. But I remember, Chris, what my second flabbergasted point was.
Awesome. We're getting back on track, everyone. We derailed for a little bit, but we were back on point number 2.
Y'all, this episode's wild.
It's fun though. I love it. And you're really, I gotta say, you're a really great speaker. Just the words, and I hear you catching. I'm kind of like a self-proclaimed grammar Nazi. So I hear you catching if you like say a word wrong and then you correct it. So I do have an appreciation for that.
Awesome.
And also your hand gestures are awesome because you're really good at making emphasis. So anyway, point number 2 that you remember now, hopefully I didn't make you forget
Yes,
again.
I appreciate that. I'm Italian and I acted for 13 years.
Lots
So
of
I'm
hand
like
gestures.
this, and like speech is was my
Yes.
thing. Being on stage, you cannot screw up your words, and if you did, you better own up to it. So so point number 2 of the spirit of being flabbergasted. When people, and this kind of goes back to the conversation earlier of being able to serve a community of people that I'm connected with who are also trying to kind of move forward with their startups and, potential business ideas and concepts they just want to build out and see if they are, viable products or services that they could bring to the market. I am flabbergasted by people's fear. I am totally amazed at why and how this mindset even came to be, that in order to test something to see if it'll work or if it's a good idea or just whatever, to test something's worth, it has to be perfectly laid out before we introduce it to the market. Y'all, just go. Just try.
Yeah.
A/B test the crap out of something. Throw all the crap out there. What are you going to do if you don't like it? Delete it? It's all good. Just try. Just go. Just try different things. I am so grateful for the relationship I have with Andrew, because I mentioned earlier, I don't have any, my experience with the industry that I currently serve was like a big bad zero. There's no experience within the multifamily world. And so the first year of my tenure with Andrew was really trying to understand this market and to understand the audience. I can't even imagine. Just had so much patience and grace with me. But to be an employer, to invest 12 months into a new hire and say, I'm going to trust that you're going to do your homework and research. And by the end of this, have a pretty firm grasp at what year 2 needs to look like for our company to take us from point A to point B. And he did, which is amazing. But during that year, really, it was, let's try 5 million different things and hopefully one of them will stick.
Yeah.
And now Andrew and I are very bold when we talk about what our failures and successes have been in the past, 2.5, 3 years with our marketing and sales angle. And it's 12 months of really the first very physical attempt at sales and marketing for this company involved a lot of failure. And that's not said with a disgruntled heart. That is said with like the most passion and like, hoorah, we failed. We failed 5 million times, but that means 5 million and one is that much closer to being a success.
Yeah. And the faster you fail, I forget the exact quote, but it was like, the faster you fail, the faster you'll succeed. Because, and I think what you were talking about there too, it's something that we're all guilty of. Everybody who gets inspired by entrepreneurial things and then watches a couple Shark Tank episodes and then they have the perfect idea. And then, oh no, you're going to take on the world with your perfect idea. And I was doing this too. I think newer entrepreneurs or first time entrepreneurs who have never really tried it, especially people who had gone to college and they know how much preparation is needed to get a paper or an assignment done and all the homework needed at a company before you undergo some kind of crazy task. They think that that's what you need to do in order to start an idea, start a business, start a podcast. People think everything's rocket science.
Yeah.
Even today at the interview, the networking thing I was at, when I had on my name tag, I just said, I just owned it finally. Cause I'm like, I'm about to break almost 40,000 monthly downloads. Like I'm going to call myself a podcaster now. Cause I think I'm doing okay now. At first I was like, it's a side hobby. Now I'm like, dude, I'm a pretty successful podcaster.
It's a thing.
Yeah. I'm going to own it now. Like you said. And you've got to own that and then really step into that role. But he was like, oh, how do you start a podcast? I'd really like to. Is it like expensive? What's the startup cost? I'm like, dude, you just need a microphone, like maybe on your phone if you want to start off with your headphones with a mic on it.
Yes.
And your time. And hopefully you have good content. That's basically all you need to start a podcast.
Or bring nothing at all. And as long as you've got one of these, like I remember.
You're good.
So Southwest Utility Solutions has a podcast. Grateful and Company has a podcast. I attempted to start a podcast about my faith, and then I was on one of my really, really, really close friends and somebody who I worked with there in college on one of his startups. He's kind of pivoted and has now and has always been, but has decided to do something with his passion for telling other people's stories and having really uncomfortable conversations with people who have such valuable insight to bring. His name is Sean McCoy. He's fabulous. And anyway, my point in saying that is my first podcast I was ever asked to be on, it was a phone call. Like
on speakerphone, fuzzy audio quality, and it works.
And it was like, hello, hi, I'm Caroline. And she called me in and it was free. And we each had a cell phone, Anchor FM, like.
Yeah.
So
I love the scrappiness of it. And like you'll see as entrepreneurs get more successful and I guess get more scrapes and bruises and get more beat up, you realize that who even cares about a business card or a website until you got a couple of pre-sales or whatever. Like every single idea that I've had like 5 or 6 business cards by this point that never did anything. And I built the website. I had the perfect logo. People worry about the logo or the name of their business and filing the LLC only to realize that doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't mean that your business is going to be successful. You should go out there and get some sales, get some customers, get some paying clients if you're doing like SEO or whatever. And like after you do that, do it under your name or whatever. I mean, maybe get an LLC if you need to, if you want to protect yourself or whatever. But if you have a skill, if you're a digital marketer whiz and you know SEO, get a couple of clients, get a couple of referrals, and then let that fund the LLC and all the other logo and the documentation. It's crazy to see how much emphasis people put on the small things that really don't mean that much at the very beginning.
Exactly right. I had friends who recently wanted to start a business. They were willing to go get a $270,000 bank loan, which I'm
Oh
like,
boy.
what? First of all, why don't what? That's not how
Hopefully
you fund a
your
startup.
idea works.
Yeah, that and don't fund a startup that way. But
Yeah.
had done absolutely no market research, Chris. None,
It's
none. And they're
just
like
off of like a gut feeling.
off a gut feeling. And I'm like, y'all, I understand the power of discernment, but this is
And
okay.
sometimes you hear some success stories where they're like, I had no idea. I just felt it
Yeah,
in my heart that it was right. Like I think Sarah Blakely with Spanx talks about it, where she's like, I
yeah.
cut the legs off the pantyhose and I knew that this was going to be it because it just changed everything.
Right.
And
But at least she cut the legs off the pantyhose and like
yeah, she did
tested it,
something. You're
you
right. She
know?
tested
She
it.
did something. My
That's
friends were like,
true. Your
Caroline,
friends had done nothing.
nothing. It's like, Caroline, why don't you want to be a part of this? I'm like, listen, here's the deal. You want to start a business with me, or you want me to be excited about a business? You have to justify a market. I have to know that I have buyers in the vicinity. I
That
need to
want that
know,
thing.
right. And I need you to prove that to me. I need you to beta launch. I need you to soft launch. I need you to get some pre bookings. I need you to do something to justify to me that my investment is worthwhile because you've demonstrated a viable market. I'm not going to
Yes.
invest based on your gut feeling. And it's so funny to say that out loud now because when I was a student in school, I used to travel around and do business plan competitions, which is just, it's something you do. The mosquito zapping drone, that's how we
Yep.
got funding. We
All
traveled,
kinds of crazy ideas. I love it.
all the craziness. But that was the consistently given feedback from the judges and the panelists who were offering up the funding. It was, I'm not going to fund you because of a gut feeling on what you think your revenue is going to be. Like, no, 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 no.
Show me some numbers. Show me
Show
some
me
market research.
exactly, do your homework and then come back. Like now,
Yeah.
as a baby entrepreneur and somebody who's just getting their toes wet, it's like, no, show me your research, show me your homework because I get it. Like, let's
Yeah.
minimize risk if we can, but still be adventurous and bold in our attempt. But let's be smart about it.
Absolutely. That's such good advice because don't let it paralyze you where you're stuck making a 50-page business plan before you start, but don't also go in there with just a gut feeling after watching too many episodes of Shark Tank with a bottle of
Right?
wine on a Friday night, you know? We're
Yeah.
starting that business tomorrow. Um, and I don't want to be cynical because I'm extremely optimistic and positive. And now as more and more people approach me with their business ideas and, hey, Chris, I'm going to start this. I know I don't want to be that person who kills their dreams at the start,
Sure.
but at the same time, I'm like, I've seen it enough where people 2 months later, hey, what are you doing with that thing? It wasn't something I really wanted to pursue, or I found they'll come up with all the excuses. There wasn't really a market for it, or
Yeah.
startup costs are much more than I anticipated. And even when people, I just talked about this on the last episode of the podcast, is people DM me, Chris, I love your show, great podcast. I'd love to be featured on here. And they give me their pitch and their profile shows that they've only posted once. So like they don't have enough history. They don't have enough track record to show
Yep.
me that they're going to be in the game for the long run.
Yeah. Exactly.
Kind of
Exactly.
like your friends with the business idea. It's like, okay, how long have you stuck with it? Have you pitched
Right.
this 50 times across town for feedback? No.
Right.
Okay.
And it breaks my heart. It's like, I love you so much and I want to support you. And I love you enough to give you that feedback
That's
because,
good. You got to
you
give the
know,
hard love, the tough love.
and entrepreneurship, Gary talks a lot about this. Entrepreneurship is popular right now and it's trending on like every platform. But in the next couple of years, it's not going to be trending anymore. And
Yeah.
really, when it's not trending and it's not, the new hipster wave of things to be pursuing, are you really like, are you still going to be pursuing this? Or are you just pursuing it because this is the cool thing to do? You know?
Yeah. Because I
So,
guess I keep hearing that on other podcasts too, is that you used to be a loser if you did entrepreneurship. You were like the guy living in your mom's basement
yeah.
who didn't have a job. And now it's like the cool thing to do. I mean, you hear the glorified stories of huge
Yes.
unicorn valuations and Ubers and Airbnbs and
Oh, man.
the amazing stories. And especially if you listen to it in a 45-minute podcast, like, wow, it seems like it just happens overnight because you listen to it in one car ride. but
Anybody can do this. Like,
yeah,
I
it's
listen to this on my
inspiring
commute
for
to work.
sure. I love it. It's inspiring. I listen to that kind of stuff all the time. You know, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
How I built that or how I built this or whatever. I
Yeah.
forget. That's one of my favorite shows by Guy Raz, but it is like a 1 hour wrapped up in an interview about the struggle, the success, the journey, almost going out of business. It's kind of like a common theme in each episode of how they did well. And it starts off with like 10-second clip of how things almost fell apart. And then obviously they're all like millionaires or billionaires at the end.
Right.
Um, but still, it's like you've got to do the work. You can't just listen to the podcast and then come up with the idea. You've got to do the work like Gary, all these entrepreneurs talk about.
Yes.
They say that you can't just consume content. You've got to actually make content, become a producer,
Yes.
show up every day.
Bring value or bring nothing at all, and get off your soapbox if you're not willing to walk the talk, please.
Absolutely. And I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're a couple minutes past the hour. Are you still good to kind of talk a little more and like wrap things up or?
Yeah,
Awesome.
we can talk a little bit more and then wrap things up. I think that's good. I think we brought a
Perfect.
lot of value.
I think so too. And I'm also really enjoying this conversation. Just some of the things you've talked about, your mentor, I can relate to that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've struggled with finding a mentor at times where I'm like, how do I make this person my mentor? How can I hang out with them more? And it's really about just becoming a friend and showing value. And honestly, some people have reached out to me and they want to mentor me because they can see I'm driven, I'm hungry. I
Yes.
just want some
Coachable.
direction,
Yeah.
coachable. Like, tell me, I want advice. I tell people all the time, like, how could I have done it better? You won't hurt my feelings. Sometimes
Yes.
I'm like, is your feedback a little too nitpicky? Like, was I really that bad
Right.
at speaking or did I mess up?
Right.
But people will you'll attract potential mentors too if they can see that you're hungry, driven, successful, or at least attracted to success.
Absolutely.
Because I've had mentors that reach out to me and they're like, Chris, I kind of want to recruit you on my team. Yet that passion, it rubs off on them too. Because as they get older, that's what they say. Like, I like to hang out with these young, hungry people because you get a little jaded as you've been in an industry for a long time. You're more cynical, more realistic, quote unquote. And it's kind of nice to have that fuel from a young, hungry entrepreneur who maybe hasn't had so many losses yet. And so they're crazy optimistic.
Like, we can change the world. Let's do it.
That's how I felt when I joined my oil and gas company. And then like 3 years in, I finally caved in. I was like, F it. I'm not, why try to propose any projects because they're just going to say we don't have the budget for it. And then I became like the cynical old man who's like, it's been like this forever. Just leave it like that. I'm like, okay, I get it now. You've beaten the optimism out of me.
And also, like, I think this is wisdom to impart on somebody who might be seeking out a mentor that's listening.
Mm-hmm.
If you've done your homework and like maybe there's an industry expert that you really look up to, or like maybe there's somebody, it's a professor, or maybe it's a boss, maybe it's a boss of a boss, or maybe it's somebody that you met at a networking event and you've gotten to know. I think there is something to be said for being bold and just straight up asking, like, have you considered mentoring somebody before? And would you consider mentoring me? This is the kind of commitment I'm looking for. Is there value that I can bring to you that would maybe allow you to consider something like this? I have
such a good idea.
And like, there is something to be said for just being bold and asking. I have one of my clients, actually, of all people, she's a total badass. Her name is Stephanie. She's fabulous. I'll tag her in the comments below. But Stephanie is the co-founder and CEO of a property management group here in Houston called Q10 Property Advisors. And she's fabulous. And I adore her team and I'm very close with a lot of her employees, just through service, honestly, like being able to serve them monthly. It sounds cliche, and it sounds like I'm just trying to be a kiss up supplier, but that's not it. I truly, truly value the relationships I have specifically with her team. And Stephanie is somebody that I look up to just as a young female entrepreneur because she has continued to prove that she wants to make it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's hungry as an adult with a family and a child.
Will not quit. Yes.
Like, let's go. I'm not too good to be in the trenches and to put in the work.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it, and I'm drawn to that. And
And I want to
literally,
be there too when I'm older. I want to be able to maintain that fire. I don't want to become complacent. And I know at a certain point you're going to want to put your feet up a little bit and chill with your family,
which
but
is okay.
yeah, that's cool. But it's like when you're addicted to this and you just love the growth and you love seeing the progress and things turn in, like you said, from the idea in the air or in your brain to
Yeah.
something physical or in a business that's working and serving clients. Like it's so exciting.
It's so exciting. And like, I saw that and I was able to discern that in Stephanie. I'm like, this person, this is why I'm so drawn to her team, because that kind of fire sets her people on fire. And so
Yes.
literally took a huge step out on faith, got out my phone. I had her cell phone number and I just shot her a quick text. Stephanie, I look up to you so much and I have so much respect for you. Would you consider mentorship of me and just like being a sounding board sometimes, offering professional feedback and advice that's industry specific? Would you be open to grabbing coffee every once in a while and let me treat you to lunch?
Yes.
And she was like, girl, I've never mentored anybody before, so I'm going to
And
be
I'd
real
be happy
transparent
to.
with you. But I'd be happy to. I would love to impart wisdom that I've gained into you. And literally, Chris, we got drinks a couple nights later. She, me, and my boss, we
That's awesome.
went, well, I say drinks. We went to Black Walnut Cafe and got an appetizer because
Yeah.
we were discussing a startup that we launched last year. We were getting Stephanie's feedback on it before we took it to market last June. And which was wild, but the fact that we did that, but we did. And Stephanie literally showed up right after she and I had that conversation, and she brought me a book. Like, she was already pouring
That's
into me.
awesome.
It was so cool. It was so cool. It's a Seth Godin book. I have it on my bookshelf. It's called Great at Work. She's like, girl, read this. I'm like, cool.
That's awesome.
So cool, right? Like, if you just step out on faith and you've done your homework and it's somebody that you look up to and have a lot of respect for, and you just ask, there's power in that. And what's the worst that could happen? They say no.
Seriously. I
You
got
know?
a cool story like that too, real quick. I know we all have plenty of
Sorry.
stories to talk forever, but I have a book on my shelf here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's 2020, obviously. But in 2009, when I was a senior in high school, I had a career day at my school where they bring in alumni to talk about what they're doing, and some people are like accountants, and some people are this and that. And I was really drawn to one guy who was an entrepreneur. He had started an appraisal company. He owned a couple smoothie factories. He had a couple of rail cars that he rented out and things like that. And he said, hey, everyone always gives their contact information at the end, but how many people actually reach out?
Yeah.
So I contacted him. I was like, hey, my name's Chris. I listened to you. I was inspired. I have a couple friends that would love to kind of shadow you, me included. Would we be able to do that? And he said, yeah. So me and two friends, I still remember my friend Andre and my friend Josh, we met up with this guy named Alex, and he picked us up in his Range Rover. Like, he drove us in his Range Rover from his office where we met to the smoothie factories, like bought us smoothies.
Wow.
And then at the end, I was joking, like I wanted to pay. And he said, it's cool. It comes back to me anyway. And I was like, that's so cool because it's his business. And he took us to the bookstore. He bought two of us. He kind of wanted us to say, hey, read one book and then switch with the other person. Think and Grow Rich, 2 copies. And then he got us a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the craziest thing is, now that I'm in real estate, he had an appraisal business. I think I might have mentioned that before.
Yeah.
He still has the same business. He said his sister's one of the partners. She's a little flashier than him. They're doing well. I think he said she drives a Ferrari and maybe has another flashy car too, but he's more laid back. And so they're doing well. They've been in the business all this time. And I just went to an appraisal class of his like a week or two ago. I saw his name come up on my email and I was like, I should go surprise him because I haven't talked to him in like a year or two.
Yeah.
And we grabbed coffee over the years. We stayed in touch because here it is over 10 years later, like almost 11 years since I heard him. And it's so cool because I tell him that I just reread Rich Dad, Poor Dad for the 3rd time. And I'll never forget when he bought me that book just because I reached out when he offered to.
Gets being
So
bold.
powerful.
Oh, so powerful. And that follow up is so important. That's one of the
Follow up
reasons
is
why Ken and
key.
I are so close. I'm a sucker for handwritten thank you notes and putting
Same.
a stamp on them and put them in the mail. Like, you take a second, keep stamps on my desk. Like, I mean,
I
that's
got
what,
some in my car.
like, let's go,
Yeah,
And when
now
I was
that I
in
joined
college,
real estate, it's like that's what they teach you, write handwritten letters.
do
But I
it.
actually like it because no one
Do
does
it.
that.
Nobody does that. It sets you apart and it makes you memorable. And that's what I mean,
Yes.
that's the main reason that Ken and I are as close as we are, is handwritten letters. He wrote, we just, over the years, and I have them all on my wall in my home
Right,
office.
because you feel like you can't throw them out. I mean,
No.
sorry, mom and dad, I throw out all their cards because it's like the same message, like Merry Christmas, God
Love
bless you.
you.
I'm like, okay, I got it. I
But
was joking. I was like,
somebody
I could read the cards from the last 10 years. I bet they're all the same message.
I bet it's the same Hallmark card y'all bought,
For
like just a
real.
different color.
But
But
I
really,
get it
though,
though.
taking
Like,
time,
yeah,
expressing physical gratitude,
it takes
being
time to write a
intentional.
letter, right?
It does. And somebody wrote one for you, and for you to write one for somebody else when they receive that, my God, that's so powerful.
Isn't that
So,
one of those little ones where you just freaking sign it and send it to like 100 people? That doesn't mean as much as you actually writing a paragraph or two,
exactly.
something personal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out to Grateful and Company. If you need like some corporate thank you cards, I'll design you some. And if you're watching this, I'll design you
Yeah.
some for free. So
That's
just
awesome.
shout out, if you guys need thank you cards, I'll just send you some for free. No problem.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything else you want to cover or talk about here before we let everyone know where to contact you?
No, this was so good. Thank you again,
Yeah, I
Chris.
think we added plenty of value, talked a lot about mentors and like how to follow up. That's key. Add value. Don't just annoy people and pester them for coffee and to pick their
Yes.
brain. You have to add value first.
Yes.
Um, so where can everyone find you, Caroline?
Oh man, social media. Please find me on social media and connect with me. If you DM me on any platform and you would rather talk to me on my phone, I have no problem giving away my phone number. Like, we can text, it's
Awesome.
cool. But I prefer, honestly, messaging on social. You can find me
Hmm.
on LinkedIn, just Caroline Ferguson. I am the vice president at Southwest Utility Solutions, and then I'm the owner and founder of Grateful and Company. So if you find me on there and you're looking through my experience to make sure it's me, those are my credentials on LinkedIn. And then same on Facebook. Like, holler at me on Facebook. I'd love to engage with you there. And then any of the company pages on Instagram that I'm just lucky enough to be a part of running. I run all those and host them. So if you want to connect with me on there and give me a shout, it'll be me replying back. And I'd love to engage with you. And also, like, I'm about community. So if you're
Yep.
listening and you want to collab, or like you think there would be value in having a physical relationship, I'm all about it. Like, let's do it.
Whoa, a physical relationship
No,
already?
I mean, like
And
coffee.
single, yeah.
No,
Coffee.
marry
Oh, in
me.
per. Oh, okay. No, I was just laughing because I was like, "Whoa, that came out." I didn't know if you caught how that came out until I mentioned it. But
I mean, I'm Caroline Ferguson and I'm leaving now.
yeah. But for real, I could edit that part out if you want. I mean, it's just kind of funny.
Please leave it. This is
It's
awesome.
just funny. I'm sure everyone's gonna laugh at that too. But yeah, everybody, Caroline Ferguson, this was an amazing interview. I mean, I usually leave it pretty open at the end just in case it goes over like the allotted 1 hour because in times like this when we're just flowing and having so much awesome content to share, like I don't mind going 10, 15 minutes over because I'm learning new things too. I'm learning about maybe new tricks to add value to mentors because there's so many people I want to mentor me,
Yeah,
and not being weird about it is super key to making sure that they actually
that's all right.
reach out to you. Yeah. Because I mean, you and I, now that we create a bunch of content, people probably reach out to us all the time. People ask me, hey, how do I get into real estate? I'm like, dude, you got like 10 hours of YouTube to watch before you ask me that question so
Right?
that I don't have to answer all these basic questions that you're about to ask.
Yes. Yes.
But okay, everyone connect with Caroline Ferguson. She posts a lot of great stuff on LinkedIn. I see you working like all the time. And we've only been connected for a few weeks here since I
Yeah,
guess, or maybe a couple months now. I know we've been trying to set
a little
up
bit.
this interview,
Yeah.
but I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. This is going to go live on Monday for everyone listening.
Woo!
So yeah, not much to edit here because it's just straight fire all the way through.
Ah, dope. Thank you, Chris, for having me. I'm so excited, and I will share this everywhere. And
Awesome.
I'm so serious. If you're listening, like, like, let's for real connect. I am community, and there is a huge community that interacts with Chris's content. And I know you interact with his podcast. And if you're a faithful listener and a consistent listener, like, show up. Let's talk. Like, let's make this a real community.
Right. Because so many times people say, hey, reach out to me, shoot me a DM. And a lot of people don't do it until you keep saying it over and over again. So I've actually been saying that more recently. And I'm excited, pleasantly surprised to see how many people are actually messaging me. Hey, I found you on Spotify. Hey, I just started listening. Thank you for connecting with me. I'm so surprised you like this picture. I thought you were like a celebrity. And I'm like, dude, I'm just as confused as you. I'm just a couple years ahead, you know? I'm not a celebrity, but I appreciate that someone literally told me that, a recent high school grad, and I made a positive impact in his life.
That's amazing.
How cool is that?
So cool. That's why we do it, right?
That's why we do it. But
bring
in any
value
case,
or bring nothing at all.
Bring value or bring nothing at all. That is the main key takeaway of today's episode. Caroline, thank you so much for bringing value. Otherwise, I'd have to delete this episode because there would be nothing at all, I guess.
Go yell at Oasis, tell them this is a trash connection.
Like, dude,
Caroline is.
For real. But this was really good. So thank you so much. And we'll definitely keep in touch. I mean, of course, we live in the same market, so I'm sure we'll find a way to work together here too and connect with some of I can make some introductions for you. You can make some for me as well.
Absolutely. And thank you, Chris. And I'll look forward to seeing it. I'll share the crap out of it. But would you email me the direct links to where you'll be publishing it when it goes live on Monday?
Yeah, for sure. Well, sometimes I have it like with YouTube, it doesn't give the link until it's published.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and share all of those, like different podcast links, the video link. I've gotten lazier because I used to do a blog post and have the page with the links. And now I'm just like, okay, I'm going to put on YouTube and my podcast. And then I stopped updating the blogs because it's like, what can I type that's not in the content, you know?
Right. No, I understand.
Most people, just my personal preference, I'm not even reading blogs anymore. I'm watching a video or listening to podcasts while doing other things.
Yep.
So the fact that I don't think anyone else is going to really sit down and read something unless it's actually really good. And right now I'm not committing to making really good written content.
Yeah. I just hired a ghostwriter and it was life-changing. It was literally life-changing. I'm like, I can get you to take my outlines and make beautiful things with them.
That's perfect.
Amazing. It's so
my
nice.
only fear is like making sure that I don't lose my voice or how I want to say things, but I don't know. It's better than not doing anything because
Yeah, but this is awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll let you go because we are like way over.
Hey,
so
it's cool. It's cool. I mean, my girlfriend hasn't even come home from work yet and the roommate's gone. And the dog's been quiet. I have my cat locked up in my bedroom because she likes to like scratch the door. But other than that, I'll let her out here in a second.
I told my husband that he knew we were doing this, and I have 2 dogs at home. I have a little Shih Tzu and a German Shepherd.
You're like, take the dog out, please.
I was like, seriously, like you just stay home, and I will stay at my office, and I will be home in a little bit. So I'm literally still at my office because it is quiet. I'm like, there's no dog freaking out. There's no toy squeaking. This is very professional. We're good. So.
Yeah, and I was so surprised when you were like, hey, does 5:30 on Friday work? But I was not surprised because that's the mark of a true entrepreneur. You're not excited when it's Friday. You're not like, thank God it's Friday. You're like, oh, man, things are going to slow down. Like Saturday, like tomorrow morning.
I know. It's like I need my developer to be on like for all throughout the weekend. I need to talk to all my designers all throughout the weekend.
It doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't stop. I got to launch another company in 6 days. It's not stopping at all.
Yeah, you're not going to sleep very much late this week.
No, it's been like this for 3 now. So
that's awesome
for me. Appreciate it.
Well, good luck. We'll let you go work on that.
Thank you, Chris. And have a great weekend. And I'll look forward to Monday.